Hello, everybody. It's Thursday and about 10 o'clock in the morning, and Thursday, February 23rd. Today, we're going to do a little bit of question and answer, and there's some questions about the display of these indicators in NinjaTrader. So, we're going to focus on NinjaTrader for the moment and take a look at some of these things. The question is this trader likes what we're doing so far, and that's great. We're going to do more. So for the classic and platinum tools, how do I see the values of the live areas, termination points, and so forth? The values in the NinjaTrader info box don't change with the live lines, and indeed they don't. So what the trader is looking at is this. This tool here would be very useful. The data box shows what's going on, right? But we have to do a couple things to make that helpful. First thing we have to do is to, on the indicator, make sure that you've turned on the data box. So let's see, we go to the indicator. We have only the classic tools running on this. The energy bands exist, but they're turned off. So we have to go down here to the visual aspect, and we have to say display in the data box. Okay, let's see how far that takes us. It's not going to get us all the way there, but let's see how that works. Okay, now when we go to the data box, we see a lot of stuff, and we can see that, well, let's see, where's my cursor? There. Okay, the cursor's on a bar. Cursor's on a bar, and we get a display. And a lot of these things are displayed, and some of them are not, and the question is why. So, and also the trader is interested in the fact that when we get out to here to the bleeding edge and the live thing, the values don't change. Well, that's a NinjaTrader flaw, and it's just, they would say it's by design, but in any case, we can't, NinjaTrader won't display the values here on the future bar. So the values here on the current bar are accurate, and we can go up and we can test that by saying, okay, there's a 5.9, there's a 48, 40, 48, and so there we see it right here as a 5.9 cell, 48 to 48. We can go back here and see that's how that lines up. So that's good. But how do we get these values out here on the future bar? Well, the first thing we're going to do is go back to the indicator and play with a little bit with something. One of these settings here is for down in the visual area, price markers. We want the price markers of indicators to be shown on the price scale. Okay, let's do that. I gotta say okay here. And now we go back. Okay, now we're out here. Now what we've done is we've added on the right-hand side, the right-hand column, we've added price markers for all of these different indicators. And you say, well, that's too many. It's not what I want at this point. But let's just expand this a little bit and say we can then see any. Okay, you want to see what the value of the PL dot is. Okay, it's right here. That would be the live PL dot in the future, and that accurately picks up here. So when these future values are plotting, they will plot the last value, and so it's always the future bar. It won't plot the current bar, which we can get from the data box, but it'll plot the last bar. So this is one way of doing it, is to turn on the price markers for the indicator, and it'll pick up the last value for each plot that is going on there. Now, something else we want to make sure that we do as well. Indicator. Let's turn on the indicator. Let's look at this indicator here again. We want to make sure the specific plot is running. If the plot's not there, we're not going to see it in the data box. So if we see something like the main channel line, which is here, it's listed as a transparent, it's not going to show up in the main channel in the box. If we want to see what it is, we want to have to turn it on. So let's show that. The 1,1 dot I don't use very much, so it's usually turned off. If we want to make it solid and so forth, so because it should come up as a solid white line. Let's see how we do that. And there we are. There's that solid white line, and there's the value for it because we've turned it on. So that's how you can get some values in the future bar. The other way, of course, is just to simply put your crosshairs where you want it to. Get a crosshairs, and it'll register the price on the outside. So if you didn't have the turned on, you're just with this what this 1 was. You could put your cursor on that. You get a very close value. Okay, so that's one way of doing that. Let's see what else the question was. Is it right up on the bands? Well, not so much written up. We'll be doing a lot more with this in the back and forth live interactive weekly meetings that we're in the process of setting up. So we'll be spending a lot of times on the bands and the energy bands and on the EODM and some ways of trading with that I think are kind of interesting, and not only on NinjaTrader but on the on TradeStation and MultiCharts as well. Now TradeStation will not have the bands, but it does have EODM. So we'll be talking about that. So is it right up on the bands? Let's look at the bands for a second. Here we go. I have a chart. Okay, here's the daily bands. Now they look like the envelopes, don't they? It looks like the envelopes with a larger than normal area, zone 3 and 4, and 5 would be the pink. But that's not exactly what they are, though. They're different than the zones. The bands were created in an effort to identify and highlight that area which most frequently was energized and turned the market around, which contained virtually all market information. And when it didn't, it very quickly turned into something that came back inside. So, for example, this is for all practical purposes, we'll say this is the PL dot, although there's some differences. But this is not the lower level of zone 5. This is instead a area that is part zone 5, part zone 6, but it's a different area with a different calculation, and it's intended to contain the market, which it does pretty darn well. You see, as soon as it's outside, it goes back inside. As soon as it enters in the zone, it goes back inside. So it's a high action market. When it goes outside the market in a radical time, it moves back in very quickly. So that's what the bands are, and they're intended to be used in conjunction with the yellow bands, yellow overlays, sometimes called the yellow brick road. And in those situations, it's very helpful. Now, so don't think that they equate with the envelope. They have some similarities, but particularly the pink bands, the actual energy bands, are different. The midline, which is the white dot line, a line right in the middle of the center of the channel, is actually very, very, very close to the PL dot. It's just smoothed a little bit. It's smoothed a little bit more. Now, you notice that on the energy bands, we don't go into the future. That's because everything is always live on the energy bands. These lines and the bands and the lines are live. They're not static, and therefore we don't have the live in the future. So energy bands are different. They are live all the time, and they're calculated a little bit differently than the PL dot, although the center line is very close. Okay, let's see what's next.